And secondly, you alluded to the people turning upon one another, which is very visceral, I suppose, in Ireland, because we're very communitarian style people, very sociable. And what seemingly has transpired is the infestation of kind of, now to go into the kind of political realm, but there's a lot of overlap in conspiracy theories naturally. The communitarianism and the collectivism of kind of easternized philosophies, in which you're responsible for somebody else's, it's the abolition of the individual's rights, and you're responsible for other people. And it does seem to be very much creeping in there. There does appear to be that kind of a war on individual
liberty. There's such a huge danger there as well, because the term "for the greater good" is used by the government. Collectivism, by definition, is the priority of the group above the people, above an individual, right? So if the government says "for the greater good," which they did do with the 1937 Constitution, they added in "for the greater good." Instead of the 1919 Constitution, they added in "for the greater good" in a lot of their things as like conditions of our rights. For the greater good, right?
But so Marxism was very popular at the time that was written, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. well, our unfortunately, the history of our government has the Marxist revolutionary spirit throughout, and just a tad. I'm very grateful for a lot of what they did. To be honest,
I'm going to probe you on that, lads. But continue, Stephen.
Yeah, I'm very grateful.
Whether you like it or not, he's going to probe you, Stephen.
Well, look, I'll show you why. This is a real conspiracy theory I'm about to show you, right? So this is where, like, there's a lot of assumptions and things, but the dates are there, that all lines up, right? So they managed to change that in 1937 to collectivism, not individual rights. So the fundamental rights section of the Constitution is questionable, or it's trivial now in the courts. The judges have the ability to say, well, the greater good is there. Are you not seeing the news? Like, judges are now in court saying, do you not know there's a global pandemic? For instance, for cases where people are not wearing masks or things like that. So collectivism has taken over. And that's dangerous, because as long as the government says "for the greater good," you have nothing. And they can do anything they want to you. With an election every 2 or 3 years, any lunatic can get that law or get power in this country and become Hitler, if they have the ability to do that. Now,
is that constitutional? Like, for the greater good, it's written in the Constitution?
They have it in. If you look in the 1937 Constitution and read from start to finish, you'll see peppered in there. It's written in a way that it's, this is conditional, for the greater good, except where the greater good is needed.
So then all you have to do then is convince the people what the greater good is.
Yeah, it's all based on how strong the propaganda of the day is.
Yeah, right? So it's like the social malaise, whatever like social ideology is most popular, that then becomes the greater good.
To be honest with you, I could
like voting
if I had the money. Yeah. If I had the money, sorry for cutting across, Gordon. If I had the money, I could pay RTE and all the radio stations exactly the way the government did, and they actually did do this. They paid them to do it, to pepper the public with propaganda. And as long as my money doesn't run out, I can change the public opinion of on whatever it is, and I can subvert the Constitution by pushing these laws through.
Like exactly reclassifying what the greater good is, and then using the Constitution to enact your legal rights to impose it.
Now let me just.
That's fucking wild, bro.
Let me just come full circle on this. They knew they were going to be doing this. I know that for a fact, because in 1945 World War II ended. And in 1947, 2 years after that, the Health fucking Act came into effect in Ireland, which stipulated that anyone who was deemed as infectious could be detained, and anyone who lived in an infectious property, that property could be demolished, based on the opinion of the minister.
Was that to eradicate TB? I'm only guessing now.
Oh, but it doesn't stipulate TB. It doesn't say TB. It says.
But it was put in for TB because everyone was shitting themselves about tuberculosis, wasn't it?
Yeah, but we know that the way that these people think is, TB, everyone fucking shit yourself. Everyone shit themselves, and then they're like, right, what's the next one we're doing, boys?
So do you think when they're writing a law, then they're going like, let's write the law so that we can use this again? I mean, there's no point in fucking writing one and then just using it the once.
Well, I might jump in there for a second.
Do you know how brazen this is? This is 2 years after Nuremberg. Well, sorry, it was within fucking months.
Within months, I would imagine.
It was within months. Yeah, it was within months of Nuremberg. They still went ahead and put this through, and the Irish government going, should that be great, wouldn't it? Somewhere down the line.
that actually brings up an interesting point right there, that kind of little microcosm of that discussion, because from what it seems, Stephen, as though you're portraying that there's a long-term agenda, there's a long-term, the people who are in power, for want of a better term, the establishment, that they have long-term agendas, and they put in a very cute, whorish kind of a way that they use legislation and other things to their advantage over a long-term basis. Whereas there would be on some, maybe on the other end of the spectrum, there might be a consensus that there's a lot of randomness of the universe to a lot of this. It's an interesting discussion. Like, I don't know, Gordon, what do you think in terms of, do you think that the powers that be, the shadow governments, the global governance institutions, and the other kind of secret fraternal orders and all that have a lot of sway in society, do you think that they can prepare for many years in advance? Like, do they operate on such a long-term sinister nature?
I mean, undoubtedly yes. Like you look at you can only kind of call them conspiracy theories, but a lot of it is historically provable. The families that tend to maintain the power, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, and these kind of.
He's the main fellow with this one.
So, like, we on those conspiracy guys, we just did an episode recently on vampires, and one of the questions that we ask is like, how come there's always a fucking vampire, and he's always like super rich, and he's always living in a big castle in a big lovely velvet cape, and he has loads of fucking stuff, and everything's made out of gold. It's like, right, if you were able to live for 300 years and you weren't living in a castle with everything made out of gold, just go and walk out into the fucking sun, because you're doing it wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you were able to put stocks invest in the stock market after the crash in 1929 and throw in like $1,000 at the time, it'd be worth millions now. Do you know what I'm saying? So like, how can a family pass down with this generational wealth? There's a reason that the royal family have so much power, because you're not allowed to marry into it unless you're willing to play ball and play by the rules and not give away the wealth, and everything has to be maintained. But it's not just the royal family that operate like that. There's loads of these oligarchical families of control that look at it this way, right? If you take the Rothschild dynasty, you take the Kennedy dynasty, you take the Bush dynasty, you take the Ford dynasty, like those four families, let's say, just top of my head, they were all in league with the Nazis. They all funded, the National Party, the National Socialist Party in Germany in the 20s, all the way into the 30s. And then about 1937 or so, they were like, oh, Jesus, that check bounced there, Adolf. Sorry about that. Sure, look, we'll see what happens next month. Like, they were funding these motherfuckers, like Bush's dad, Prescott Bush, like old, like George W. Bush's granddad. He was like, yeah, the Nazis are class, aren't they? Oh, no, they didn't do that, did they? Like, they were fully on board, Like,
but
all of these guys have been.
That was just till they got what they wanted, though. They only needed the Balfour Treaty from the UK, the Havara Agreement from Hitler. Once they got the Havara Agreement from Hitler, it was all game.
For people who aren't actually aware, Stephen, what is the Balfour Treaty and what is the Havara Agreement?
Right, so the Balfour Treaty is the document that signed Israel back into existence.
In 1957.
Yes. So like there's a natural progression here, right? So
can I correct
before that there's the Havara Agreement, which was between Hitler and the Zionists. This is a known thing, right? So you can look this up. And this was so Hitler could move the Jews out of Germany, and the Zionists could move them to the Middle East.
Who did he sign that way?
The Zionists, between Hitler and the Zionists. You can look that up.
When you say the Zionists, who did he? Who
but there was the Zionist Party of Germany. The two of them signed this agreement.
As a like a friendly, let's all move the Jews and not kill any of them. By the way,
if you look into the actual history of World War II, and don't worry, I'm not going down the path of
the protocols of the elders of Zion or some
don't
shit.
mind that.
Yeah.
No, I'm not talking about Holocaust denial or anything here.
Yeah,
Like, millions of Jews died in Germany. I'm going to state that now, just before people think anything else.
Just before we go any further, lads.
Yeah, but there was actually an agreement, and you can look it up. HAVAARA, Havara Agreement, between Hitler and the Zionists to move Jews out of Germany to the Middle East, to a state that they will be forming, Israel. Wow. Or that was formed or is forming.
Interesting.
We
And the Balfour Treaty as well. Am I correct in saying that was just after World War One? Was that
Yeah,
1919?
that was the royal family, and again the Zionists, the Rothschild
Mm.
family. The Rothschild family and the UK royal family signed that into existence.
Yeah, you know, when you talk about conspiracy theories, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Bushes,
JP Morgan,
the family, the committee, was it the, I'm going to get my terminology incorrect now. Is it the 13 families, and then you have the committee of 300, like if you're talking about from a pyramid kind of type structure.
13 families, they're called the Illuminati bloodlines, but they come from like a bunch of old Italian families that they call the black nobility, and go all the way back to like the 14th century. So that information, that wealth is generational. It's passed on to kids. The way that the Rothschilds had like a bunch of wealth in Germany, Austria before, because it was even before Germany was Germany, and then they trained all their kids, like I think 8 kids, and went, okay, you go to this country and make a bank, you go to this country and make a bank, and you go to this country and make a bank, and it was a plan to keep that generational wealth. 5 sons, there you go, and to keep generational wealth. So of course, like factually, historically, of course, there are oligarchical families that have hundreds of years of legacy that keep control, and now you have this whole other cohort of tech billionaires that have this technocracy happening, where not only do they have all the fiat, in operation, billions and hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars, to be able to do what they want, to be able to lobby the government to change the laws about how much privacy they can encroach on. They also have like fantastic marketing campaigns and, brilliantly convenient devices that we all use. And then they've been farming all our information in for the last, 20 years. So they can even tell like what we're going to do next, how all our buying patterns, like what the stuff that we eat, like they have all the information that they need as a market researcher would need to totally control every aspect of our life, down to like the food that we eat, how many calories we take in a day. So like when you talk about like total control, it's the amalgamation of all of these different forces, like the legacy powers meeting and joining up with the new technocratic information overlords, and both of them putting their stuff together, like the legacy knowledge and wealth with this new knowledge, this new currency of information, biometric and psychological information. Like that's a fucking recipe for
disaster.
Absolute blanket control on everything, So if you're saying, are they real? Yeah, sure, they're real. Is there a shadow government? You look at the
the shadow government says there's a shadow government. They say there's a shadow government.
The deep state showed itself when they tried to take away Trump's power. They showed their hand. They played it a little bit too hard, and some people got caught. I don't know if you remember Peter Strzok and Bruce Orr and this thing called the Steele dossier, where it was like Russian prostitutes pissing on Trump on Obama's bed in a Moscow hotel or some shit, and Hillary Clinton paid for it. It was totally made up. Peter Strzok went in front of a House Oversight Committee and smiling, going like, "You'll never catch me," like a cat with a cream-flavored arsehole. And basically, like, the head of the FBI got sacked, the fucking people in the NSA, like all of these deep state operatives all got totally smashed, got fired, got sent on administrative leave, let's say, but they all became public figures. And now that Steele dossier is going to come back and bite Hillary Clinton on the whole. She was supposed to be in court last September over it, and it was pushed forward to this year, and it's pushed forward to next year. Like, shit's happening, people can see it, and I think in Ireland it's a little bit easier to see some of the nefarious machinations, because the government is so small, and we can actually like approach our politicians, and we know the people that are there. But in America, because it's so well covered, and that's kind of where I'll admit Stephen knows an awful lot about Ireland. I can tell, like, most of my focus is towards the West, is towards America.
Yeah.
Not least because that's where most of the conspiracies come from. I mean,
I think the knowledge of politics, we're blessed that we have America in the world, because we can learn from America and then look at Ireland and say, how does this apply here? And then you can see very clearly straight away looking back at our country, there is no opposition.
It's like a John Player Tops version of American politics. It's like,
it is.
Like a school play version of what they're doing in this country to what they're doing in America. There's so many levels.
Up as the Democrats.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. As the tolerant left, the sympathetic left, the people's party or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, of course, that's going to end up in giving up your freedoms for some sort of security, and then they, of course, throw a whole lot of social stuff on top of that. So if you argue against it, you're nothing but a cunt, because like, how dare you say, you know, we shouldn't feed poor people and house homeless people?
It reminds me of the episode of South Park. Do you remember when they sellotaped black people to the tanks in South Park?
Yeah. First,
they called it
the first wave,
Blackie Shield or something.
Yeah, the first wave.
And that's what it reminds me of, because South Park is so good at telling you in advance of the methods that they're going to be used, because you can see these things coming over the horizon. Some people don't like fucking pointing it out because they're afraid of being called a conspiracy theorist. So you know, you can see that, and South Park shows it to us the whole time. Simpsons shows it to us the whole time. The reason they're so good at predicting it is because it's fucking obvious, lads.
And it's been repeated. It's already been done. I did live shows in London and Manchester recently, and I talked about this fantastic book that answered a lot of my questions, because like, obviously you're sitting around, Stephen, you know, sitting around thinking about stuff, you know what I'm saying, and you're going like, what the fuck, you know, is happening? You know, how can we prevent this? What's the remedy for this? Has it happened before? Surely it's happened before. There's an answer. Found this wonderful book called The Fourth Turning by Neil Howe and Bill Strauss. And it says that this shit happens in 80-year cycles, and you're like, no, it couldn't be that simple.
John, you told me about this only last
today.
This is fucking
it's a fantastic book, fantastic concept, and very provable. And I'm trying to. So I get a lot of shit from like hardcore conspiracy heads online, because there's a lot of lads that have got into it in the last like 3 or 4 years. Again, since Trump.
Oh, the new guys to the scene, the Trump people.
The black pilled a bunch of people. And lads go fucking total headfirst hardcore, like they're going like flat earth and all this kind of, like they're going mad for it, right? As you do when you start off.
They don't have a sense of responsibility, because people like yourself and me, Gordon, we are responsible, if we are talking about these things, to manage people's newfound fucking understanding of the world correctly, because it is a difficult experience to have your whole world view change.
It's like a mental breakdown.
We all talk to anyone that says they woke up. It's a mental breakdown. Like, waking up is a mental breakdown. The worldview that conspiracy theorists have is no different than any politician. If you want to meet a real conspiracy theorist, talk to a politician. They think everyone in the world is after them. They think everything in the world is fucked up. You know, like Trump going on about the communists and everything else. The communists going on about Trump and the nationalists. They're pure conspiracy theorists. Like, the higher up the political ladder you go, the more conspiratorial and crazy it gets. You know, and
it's people trying to concoct, like I said before, they feel bad inside, and what they want to do is be able to like some kind of an emotional airlock. You know, they want to be able to match the emotional barometric pressure of the world to how they feel. And sometimes people feel real bad real quick. Like the last 2 years, motherfuckers been feeling real bad. So in order to match how bad they feel on the inside, they're going to grab onto whatever fucking answers they can get, whatever concepts they can get to explain, like, I feel really bad. Is that because the world is fucked? And then they go and read 100 things and say, yeah, the world is totally fucked, bro, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, well, at least I know that I'm not crazy, you know? So and there's people then who will commodify that need for that answer. And they will create content or create fucking websites or create podcasts or YouTube channels that will feed them what they want. And agree with them. And then they go, see, I told you that was real. And then they come to people like me.
That echo chamber, Gordon.
And they do. And it's on both sides. And I'm not saying that it's not. You know, nobody's wearing any fucking halos around here.
No.
But what I'm trying to do, I
like it here.
Me too, bro. Before we started, I said, like, I've been to the end. And the darkest places and the shittiest places and the shittiest feeling and the shittiest sounding when I'm looking at it. And I'm almost on the way back to the middle. I'm using history as a lens to view conspiracy theories in a factual, tangible way, rather than like getting lost in the weeds of the crazy, mad shit. If you have any idea, you can go online and you can find something that will prove that that's right. And that's not how the world works.
You're becoming more of a social strategist than a conspiracy theorist. Like possibly, you can reframe this any way you want, by the way. You know, like I'll always call myself a conspiracy theorist, because I remember back when a pastime you know.
Yeah,
I remember back when that was like, Jesus, that's mad. What kind of other mad stuff do you know? I'm sure I'll tell you. And let's stick on an alien film. Fuck it, yeah. What do you think? It was all normal.
sharing
Now,
documentaries on VCR tapes now. Geez, you want to watch that? I fucking recorded that off the
Yeah.
skybox. But now people can do it on their own. They don't interact with people, Stephen. They're able to do it on their own. They don't have anybody, like, there's no checks and balances. Like,
oh, that's
you
the
know,
worst thing.
so they're
Crazy.
in the fucking, like, in the fucking
And
vortex.
would you agree that some people don't work well on their own with these things? Like, have you heard about the inner monologue? Some people don't have an inner monologue, and it's
There's
about
lots of
50%
TikToks
of
now
people.
about it.
Yeah,
People are
so like there are like half conspiracy theorists
Yeah.
out there that don't have this inner monologue where they don't regulate.
Yeah, there are, and they've nobody to tell them, like, hey, whoa, that's a bit fucking mental, bro. Like, and you know, a lot of them don't interact with people. What would you say? Genuine is probably the wrong word, but like
rationally.
Not rationally, but like they use avatars and they use like anonymous internet handles and stuff like that. So they don't actually behave as themselves. They don't, like you said, the social contract is kind of abandoned a small bit, and they say things that may not be real or true or genuine. Not that it's not genuine. The feelings are real, but I'm saying that the honest part or the real part of what they're saying is not represented. And then you get a bunch of other people doing the same thing, and everyone comes to this crazy, very extreme consensus because they're kind of afraid to call the other one out on being a bit mad, because then you get ostracized, and it's just like smaller and smaller and smaller circles of ostracization.
You're talking about fanatics there, then.
Fanatics, but you end up becoming a fanatic by accident because people are on their own researching all this stuff, and then when they do come to the table, they're just going bang, 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 bang. Like, this is what I learned, this is what I know, and fuck you